The beach trip that ended my marriage. My husband gave me an ultimatum: skip the beach trip with my male best friend or he'd leave me. I went anyway and posted that photo. By the time I got home, half his closet was empty and divorce papers were already being drafted. I'm Emma, 28, and I'm about to tell you how one Instagram post destroyed my entire life in 72 hours. But honestly, the more I think about it, the more I realize Ryan completely overreacted to everything. Like, yes, I made some mistakes, but his controlling behavior is what really destroyed our marriage. My marriage to Ryan seemed solid from the outside. 4 years together, a cute townhouse in suburbia that we were slowly renovating room by room, steady jobs, him making decent money in tech consulting, me killing it in digital marketing. We weren't those annoying Instagram couples, but we were comfortable, happy even, or at least I thought we were until Ryan started showing his true colors. The red flags had been there for months, but I'd ignored them because I loved him. He'd gotten increasingly weird about my friendships, especially with guys. Like when my college friend Marcus invited us to his housewarming party, Ryan suddenly had work stuff to do. Or when my coworker Brad asked if I wanted to grab lunch to discuss a project, Ryan made this comment about how interesting it was that Brad always seemed to need my input specifically. But the worst was how he treated Jake. Jake has been my rock since sophomore year of college. The guy who held my hair back during food poisoning junior year, who helped me move apartments 3 times, who talked me through every relationship disaster before Ryan. Yeah, we had a tiny romantic blip back in college. Maybe 3 weeks of casual hookups that naturally fizzled into friendship when we realized we were better as friends. Ancient history that wasn't relevant to my marriage. Ryan didn't need to know every detail of my romantic past, right? I mean, Jake and I had moved on completely. We were just friends, and anyone with eyes could see that. The fact that Ryan couldn't trust me enough to see that friendship for what it was said way more about his insecurities than anything I was doing wrong. Our college crew had this sacred tradition: annual weekend at Ocean City. 7 years running, never missed one. It was my lifeline. 3 days of zero responsibilities, no work stress, no household chores, just pure fun with people who knew me before I became Ryan's wife and started losing pieces of myself to marriage expectations. This year, Ryan decided he had a problem with it. Looking back, Ryan had been building up to this for months. Little comments here and there about how Jake and I texted a lot. Dramatic sighs when Jake would call. Passive-aggressive questions like, "What does Jake need now?" whenever my phone buzzed. I should have seen it coming, but I was giving Ryan the benefit of the doubt because that's what good wives do, right? 2 weeks before Ocean City, Ryan ambushed me during dinner. We were having takeout Chinese food, just a normal Tuesday night, when he casually dropped a nuclear bomb. "I don't think you should go to Ocean City this year." I literally choked on my lo mein. "I'm sorry, what?" "The whole thing with you and Jake's, it's not appropriate for a married woman." The audacity was breathtaking. Here I was, being the perfect, faithful wife for 4 years, never so much as looking at another man sideways, and he was questioning my character over a friendship that predated our relationship. "Ryan, these are my oldest friends. I've been going on this trip since before I even met you." "That was different. You weren't married then." "So marriage means I have to give up my friendships? That's not the deal we made." He got that look. The one where he thinks he's being reasonable, but he's actually being completely unreasonable. "I'm not asking you to give up friendships. I'm asking you to respect boundaries." That's when I found out he'd been completely violating my boundaries by secretly reading my text messages. He pulled out his phone like some kind of prosecutor presenting evidence. "Jake said he can't wait to see you in your new bikini," Ryan quoted from memory, his voice dripping with accusation. My face burned with embarrassment and anger. "That was a group chat about swimsuits, Ryan. I showed everyone my new bikini because I was excited about it. Jake's comment was completely innocent." "Was it, though? Because to me it sounds like a man who's thinking about you sexually." "You went through my private messages," I shouted, finally letting my anger show. "That's a complete violation of trust." "I felt like I had to," he said, not even apologizing. "Your behavior has been making me uncomfortable for months." My behavior? I was the victim here. I was the one whose privacy had been violated, whose friendships were being policed, whose every interaction was being scrutinized and twisted into something inappropriate. Then, Ryan delivered the ultimatum that would change everything. "If you go on this trip with him, it's a deal breaker for me." Those exact words. A deal breaker. 4 years of marriage, and he was ready to throw it all away because I wanted 3 days at the beach with friends I'd had since before he existed. The manipulation was crystal clear. He was basically saying, choose me or choose them, which is classic controlling behavior. I'd read enough articles about emotional manipulation to recognize it when I saw it. I looked at this man I'd married, this person who was supposed to love and support me unconditionally, and I realized I barely recognized him. Where was the guy who'd fallen in love with my independence? Who used to brag about having a wife with her own friends and interests? "I'm going," I said quietly. "These people have been in my life longer than you have, and I'm not abandoning them because you've suddenly decided to be insecure." He just stared at me like I'd slapped him. "Then I guess we don't have anything else to talk about." I went upstairs and packed my bags that night, tears streaming down my face. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I was heartbroken that my husband had revealed himself to be someone I didn't respect. The 3-hour drive to Ocean City should have been relaxing, but I couldn't stop obsessing over Ryan's behavior. No goodbye kiss, no drive safe text, nothing. Just cold silence, like I was being punished for not obeying his demands. I tried calling my sister Claire halfway through the drive to vent, but she was busy with her kids. Left a voicemail. "Ryan's being completely unreasonable about the beach trip. Call me back when you get this." The closer I got to Ocean City, the lighter I felt. This was exactly what I needed. Time away from Ryan's suffocating jealousy to remember who I was outside of his expectations. Jake was waiting on the deck when I pulled up, beer in hand, and that easy smile that always made everything better. He jogged down to help with my bags, pulling me into a warm hug. "I'm so proud of you for coming," he said, his voice soft, near my ear. "I know this wasn't easy." Something about the way he said it, the understanding in his voice, made my chest tight with emotion. When was the last time Ryan had shown me that kind of support? "He'll get over it," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Jake squeezed my shoulder. "His loss if he doesn't." The beach house was exactly like always. Slightly run down, but perfect. 6 bedrooms, incredible ocean view, and a massive deck perfect for our group dinners. Our friends Sarah, Mike, Jessica, and Tony had already claimed their usual rooms. Everything felt normal and safe. Sarah gave me a concerned look when I walked in. "So Ryan was okay with you coming?" I waved her off. "He'll survive 1 weekend without me. We're not joined at the hip." But I could see the skepticism in her eyes, and honestly, it annoyed me. Why was everyone so ready to take Ryan's side when he was clearly the one being unreasonable? That evening, we did our traditional bonfire on the beach. Someone brought up Ryan's absence. I think it was Mike asking if he was coming later, and I found myself getting defensive. "Ryan doesn't control my social calendar," I announced, probably louder than necessary. "I'm allowed to have friendships outside my marriage." Jake nodded supportively. "Emma's always been independent. That's what makes her special. Any guy who tries to change that doesn't deserve her." God, it felt good to be seen and appreciated for who I actually was, instead of constantly criticized. Jake understood me in ways Ryan clearly didn't. As the night went on and the drinks flowed, I found myself gravitating toward Jake. Not intentionally. It just felt natural. We'd always had this easy chemistry, this ability to make each other laugh. I'd forgotten how good it felt to be around someone who actually enjoyed my company instead of constantly finding fault with everything I did. Around midnight, most everyone had headed back to the house, but Jake and I were still talking by the dying fire. The conversation had gotten deep. We were talking about how marriage changes people, how sometimes you lose yourself trying to be what someone else wants. "You know what? Screw it," Jake said suddenly, jumping up. "Let's go swimming. Now we don't have bathing suits on." So, when has that ever stopped us? He was right. Back in college, spontaneous midnight swims were totally normal for us. I was overthinking it because Ryan had made me paranoid about every interaction with Jake. The water was freezing but exhilarating. We splashed around like kids, and for those few minutes, I forgot all about ultimatums and marriage problems and controlling behavior. I just felt like myself again. Back at the house, dripping wet and laughing, I felt more alive than I had in months. I checked my phone. Still nothing from Ryan. Fine. If he wanted to give me the silent treatment like a child, that was his choice. I opened Instagram and posted a quote that perfectly captured how I was feeling. "The people who truly love you won't try to cage you." Added a gorgeous sunset shot I'd taken earlier and watched the likes pour in. Several friends commented with supportive messages. Jake even added a comment, "Truth." It felt like validation that I was doing the right thing by standing up for myself. Saturday was absolutely perfect. Gorgeous weather, great vibes, everyone relaxed and happy. I wore my new bikini, the one that had caused so much drama, and felt amazing in it. It was more revealing than my usual style, but I looked good and I deserved to feel confident in my own skin. We spent the morning on the beach, playing volleyball and soaking up the sun. Everyone was taking photos, just casual fun shots of the group. When Jake suggested getting a picture of just the two of us, I didn't think twice about it. "Come here," he said, pulling me close for the shot. His arm went around my waist, hand resting on my hip. We were both laughing at something Tony had said, totally relaxed and natural. Sarah snapped a few photos of us, and honestly, we looked great together. Happy, carefree, like people who actually enjoyed each other's company. Later that afternoon, we hit up our favorite beachside bar. The margaritas were strong, the music was perfect, and I was having the best time I'd had in months. Jake and I ended up talking alone on the deck while the others played pool inside. The conversation got nostalgic. We were reminiscing about college, about roads not taken, about how different things might have been if we'd met at a different time in our lives. "I've always wondered," Jake said, his voice soft, "what would have happened if we'd given us a real shot back then? Like, if we'd actually tried instead of just assuming we were better as friends." I should have changed the subject. I should have remembered I was married. But the margaritas had loosened my tongue, and Ryan's controlling behavior had left me feeling unappreciated and questioning everything about my marriage. "I've wondered too," I admitted. "Sometimes I think we were just too young to know what we had." The conversation hung in the air between us, charged with possibility. When Jake suggested we continue talking back at the house, away from the crowd, I said yes. We ended up in his room, sitting on his bed, still talking about alternate timelines and missed opportunities. One thing led to another, and suddenly we were kissing. I want to be clear about what happened next because this is important. We did not have sex. I had that line drawn firmly in my mind, and I didn't cross it. We kissed, we touched, clothes came off, but we didn't actually have intercourse. In my mind, that meant it wasn't really cheating. It was just a moment of weakness, a mistake brought on by alcohol and Ryan's emotional manipulation. If anything, Ryan's controlling behavior had pushed me into Jake's arms. Afterward, I felt guilty but also vindicated. Ryan had accused me of being inappropriate with Jake, had treated me like I was already cheating. So in a way, his paranoia had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The next morning, I woke up with a slight hangover and a lot of complicated feelings. What had happened with Jake felt like a dream, intense but unreal. We didn't talk about it at breakfast, just exchanged a few meaningful looks. Part of me wanted to text Ryan to try and explain why I'd been driven to this point, but I was still angry about his ultimatum. He'd forced me to choose, and I'd made my choice. If he couldn't handle the consequences of his controlling behavior, that was on him. That afternoon, scrolling through the photos Sarah had taken, I came across the one of Jake and me. We looked so happy together, so natural. The sunlight was perfect, the ocean backdrop was gorgeous, and we both looked incredible. Looking at that photo, I felt a surge of defiance. Ryan had tried to keep me away from my friends, had acted like there was something inappropriate about my friendship with Jake. Well, here we were looking like the best of friends, having an amazing time without him. I posted it to Instagram with a caption that felt perfect in the moment. Making memories with people who actually matter. #beachlife and #realfriends. The response was immediate. Likes poured in. Friends commented about how happy I looked, how much fun the trip seemed. Jake commented with a flame emoji and "best weekend ever." I felt vindicated. This was me living my best life, refusing to be controlled or limited by someone else's insecurities. I turned my phone off after posting, not wanting to deal with whatever Ryan might say. This weekend was about me and my friends, not about managing his emotional reactions to my perfectly innocent friendships. The drive home Sunday afternoon felt eternal. I'd turned my phone back on to 52 notifications, likes, comments, shares of my photo, but nothing from Ryan. Not one text, not one call. The silent treatment in full effect. Part of me was relieved. No drama to deal with, no accusations or interrogations. But another part was hurt. 4 years of marriage and he couldn't even check if I'd made it home safely? I tried calling him from the road, straight to voicemail. Tried texting. "Heading home now, we should talk." No response. The closer I got to home, the more anxious I became. This level of silent treatment wasn't normal, even for Ryan when he was being dramatic. I pulled into our driveway around 6 p.m. and immediately knew something was wrong. Ryan's car was there, but the house felt different. Empty somehow. I walked in calling his name but got no response. That's when I saw it. The hall closet door standing open, half empty. His winter coats, gone. The spare luggage we kept on the top shelf, gone. My heart started pounding as I ran upstairs. His side of the bedroom closet, half empty. His dresser drawers, just my stuff. The bathroom, his toothbrush, his cologne, his contact solution, all gone. In the kitchen, propped against the coffee maker, I found his note. "Staying at Marcus's place. We need to talk, but not tonight." I called him immediately, straight to voicemail. Texted, "Are you seriously moving out over a beach photo?" No response. I sat on our kitchen floor and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. This was not how this was supposed to go. I'd expected him to be upset, maybe give me the cold shoulder for a day or two, but actual separation? Over what exactly? A photo with a friend? His overreaction was proving my point about his controlling behavior, but it also scared me. What if he was serious about this being a deal breaker? By Monday morning, I'd convinced myself that Ryan was just being dramatic to teach me a lesson. He'd cool off in a day or two and realize how ridiculous he was being. We'd had fights before. We always worked through them. I tried calling again, voicemail, left a message. "Ryan, this is childish. Come home so we can talk like adults." Then I made the mistake of checking the comments on my Instagram photo. Most were supportive, but a few made my stomach turn. His cousin Beth had commented, "Where's Ryan? Trouble in paradise?" with a smirking emoji. His coworker Dave, "Looks like someone's having fun without the hubby," with a yikes emoji. Even worse, some mutual friends had started liking and commenting on Ryan's older posts, clearly showing support for him, like they were choosing sides. I called my sister Claire in a panic. "Ryan moved out because I went on the beach trip. Can you believe how controlling that is?" Claire was sympathetic at first. "Oh, honey, I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Ryan's always been so reasonable. Maybe if you just apologize for the photo..." Apologize? For what? Having friends? Well, the caption was a little passive-aggressive, don't you think? People who actually matter? That was clearly aimed at him. I was stunned. Even my own sister was taking his side. He gave me an ultimatum, Claire. He tried to control who I could spend time with. Maybe he was just uncomfortable with the situation. You have to admit, Jake's always been a lot. Jake's my friend. I know, but Emma, you posted a pretty intimate-looking photo with another man while your husband was at home upset. How did you think that would look? After we hung up, I felt more alone than ever. Everyone was missing the point. This wasn't about a photo or a caption. This was about Ryan's inability to trust me and his need to control my relationships. Ryan finally agreed to come over Monday evening. I'd spent hours getting ready, choosing an outfit I knew he loved, practicing what I wanted to say. I was going to be the bigger person here, smooth things over, help him see how his behavior had pushed us to this point. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He looked tired, but also calm, detached, like he was visiting a stranger's house. "How was your weekend with Jake?" he asked, sitting at our kitchen table like he was conducting a business meeting. "Don't start with the sarcasm, Ryan. You're the one who gave me an ultimatum." He pulled out his phone and showed me my Instagram post. "This isn't about calling a bluff, Emma. This is about you deliberately trying to hurt and humiliate me." I looked at the photo again, trying to see it through his eyes. Okay, maybe the caption was a little pointed, but he'd driven me to that level of frustration with his controlling behavior. "Look at the comments," he continued. "Friends asking where I am, making jokes about you replacing me. You turned our marriage problems into public entertainment." I posted a photo with a friend. If people read more into it than that, that's not my fault. "Jake's comment," Ryan said, scrolling to show me. "Flame emoji, best weekend ever." What's that about? He had fun on the trip. We all did. That's what friends do. They enjoy spending time together. Ryan's jaw tightened. I know what happened with Jake. My blood turned to ice, but I kept my expression neutral. Nothing happened. Sarah saw you coming out of his room at 2 a.m. Saturday night. She texted me because she was worried about you making a mistake. Damn Sarah and her big mouth. But I wasn't caught. Not really. Because technically I was telling the truth. "We were talking," I said. "Sometimes conversations run late." "Talking," Ryan repeated flatly. "That's all?" "Yes, that's all." The lie came easily because in my mind it wasn't really a lie. We didn't have sex, so nothing that counted had happened. If I spent the night in another woman's room while you were at home upset, would you consider that appropriate? The question was a trap, and I refused to fall into it. This isn't about hypotheticals, Ryan. This is about your inability to trust me and your need to control my friendships. "One boundary," he said, his voice getting harder. "I asked you to respect one boundary because I was uncomfortable. Instead, you turned it into this massive power struggle." Because it was a power struggle. You were testing to see if you could make me choose between you and my friends. I was asking my wife to prioritize our marriage over a friendship that makes me uncomfortable. That's not unreasonable. It absolutely is, when that friendship is completely innocent. We went in circles like that for another hour. Every time he tried to make me see his perspective, I redirected back to his controlling behavior. Every time I tried to explain my position, he brought up respect and boundaries. Finally, desperate to end the argument and get us back on track, I tried a different approach. I moved closer to him, let my hand rest on his thigh. "I miss you," I said softly. "I miss us. Can't we just move past this?" He gently moved my hand away. "Sex isn't going to fix this, Emma. It never has." The rejection stung, but I pushed forward. "Then what do you want from me?" "Accountability," he said simply. "I want you to understand why what you did was harmful to our marriage." "I went on a trip with friends and posted a photo. If you can't handle that level of independence from your wife, maybe you're not ready to be married." Something shifted in his expression then, like he'd been hoping I'd say something different, and my response had confirmed his worst fears. "I've been talking to a therapist," he said quietly. "She's helping me see patterns in our relationship that I've been ignoring." "So, some stranger is telling you to divorce me?" I asked, feeling panicked. "No, she's helping me understand what a healthy relationship looks like, what mutual respect actually means." He stood up. "I filed separation papers today, Emma. My lawyer will contact you." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You're not serious." "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." "Over a beach trip? Over one photo?" "Over 4 years of you testing boundaries, dismissing my feelings, and prioritizing everyone else's needs above our marriage." He headed toward the door. "The beach trip was just the final straw." Sitting alone in our kitchen after Ryan left, I tried to process what had just happened. Separation papers. Divorce. Over what? His inability to trust me? His need to control my friendships? The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that this was temporary insanity on his part. Ryan was hurt and acting irrationally. Once he calmed down and really thought about throwing away 4 years of marriage over one weekend, he'd come to his senses. I started making a mental list of all the ways I could fix this. Couples therapy, obviously. Maybe I could agree to some boundaries with Jake to make Ryan feel more secure. I could even take down the Instagram post if it would help. The important thing was that I was willing to compromise now that I understood how serious this was for him. That had to count for something, right? I texted him. "I'm willing to work on this. Let's try counseling before we do something we'll both regret." No response. But I wasn't giving up. Ryan was the love of my life, even if he was being completely unreasonable right now. Our marriage was worth fighting for, and I was going to prove to him that his controlling behavior hadn't broken me. I just needed to figure out how to make him see that he was throwing away something beautiful over his own insecurities. Because that's what this really was about, his insecurities, not my behavior. And once he got some therapy and worked through his trust issues, we'd be stronger than ever. Over the next few days, the social media fallout got increasingly uncomfortable. That stupid photo had taken on a life of its own, with friends and acquaintances weighing in with their opinions about my marriage. Jake's girlfriend Megan commented on the photo. "Cute. Wish I could have been there." But something about the passive-aggressive energy told me she'd heard something. Then my mom called. "Emma, honey, I talked to Ryan yesterday. He's really hurting." "He's hurting? Mom, he's the one who gave me an ultimatum and then moved out when I wouldn't obey it." There was a long pause. "Is it true about you and Jake?" My heart stopped. "What about me and Jake?" "Ryan said there was an incident, that you were inappropriate with Jake during the trip." "Ryan's lying because he's embarrassed that I called his bluff about the controlling behavior." "Emma," my mother's voice was stern, "tell me the truth. Did something happen with Jake?" "We're friends, Mom, that's all we've ever been." "Because cheating on your husband—" "I didn't cheat!" I exploded. God, why is everyone so ready to believe the worst about me? But even as I said it, I felt sick. Because technically, I hadn't cheated. We didn't have sex. But I also knew that what happened in Jake's room wasn't something I could tell my mother about. The conversation ended badly, with Mom saying she was disappointed in me for not being honest, and me hanging up in tears. 2 days later, I ran into Jake's girlfriend Megan at the grocery store. She approached my cart with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Emma, how are you holding up? I heard about you and Ryan." "We're working through some things," I said carefully. She moved closer, lowering her voice. "You know, Jake told me about your little heart-to-heart on the trip. Said you got pretty emotional about your marriage troubles." My stomach dropped. What exactly had Jake told her? "He mentioned you seemed really confused about what you wanted," Megan continued. "Said you were talking about roads not taken. wondering about alternate timelines. She laughed, but it sounded forced. I told him that's just Emma being Emma, always wondering if the grass is greener somewhere else. The condescension in her voice made my skin crawl, but I forced a smile. Jake's a good friend. I appreciate having someone to talk to. Oh, I'm sure you do. She stepped back. Well, I hope you figure out what you want before you hurt anyone else. As she walked away, I realized with growing horror that Jake had been talking about our private conversations, about what happened between us. The betrayal cut deep. I'd trusted him with my vulnerability, and he'd turned it into gossip for his girlfriend. A week after Ryan left, my friend Sarah finally told me what everyone had been whispering about behind my back. We met for coffee, and I could tell she was uncomfortable. Look, Emma, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. Just say it. People are talking about the beach trip, about what happened with you and Jake. My blood ran cold. What exactly are people saying? Sarah sighed. Jake's been bragging, I guess. At the bar last weekend, he told a bunch of guys that you came on to him, said you were complaining about Ryan and how unsatisfied you were in your marriage. I felt like I'd been slapped. That's not what happened? He's also saying it wasn't the first time, that you've been flirting with him for years, sending mixed signals. He's lying. Maybe, Sarah said, but her tone suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. But Emma, the way you've acted around Jake, it's always been a little intense. The inside jokes, the late-night texts, the way you light up when he's around. He's my best friend. And I'm your best friend too, but you don't act the same way with me that you do with him. I stared at her, speechless. Look, I'm not saying you meant for anything to happen, Sarah continued. But Jake is telling people that you've been giving him signals for years, and that Ryan finally called you out on it. So everyone believes I'm some kind of cheater? People believe what makes sense to them based on what they've observed. And honestly, the way you prioritize Jake, the way you talk about him, the way you defend your friendship with him, it's not exactly typical best friend behavior. I wanted to argue, but something about her words hit too close to home. Had I been giving Jake signals without realizing it? Had I been prioritizing our friendship in ways that were inappropriate for a married woman? No. That was just Ryan's paranoia getting to everyone else. I was allowed to have close friendships. I was allowed to have people in my life who appreciated me for who I was. This is all Ryan's fault, I said finally. His controlling behavior pushed me into this situation, and now he's playing the victim. Sarah just looked at me sadly. Emma, do you really believe that? 10 days after Ryan left, I convinced him to meet me for dinner. I'd spent hours getting ready, choosing the dress from our first anniversary, the one that made his eyes light up when I wore it to our wedding rehearsal dinner. I made reservations at Marcello's, the Italian place where we'd had our rehearsal dinner, where we'd celebrated our first promotion, where we'd talked about buying a house and having kids someday. When Ryan walked in, my heart skipped. He looked good, tired but good. The separation was clearly taking a toll on him too, which gave me hope that this was all just a dramatic overreaction that we could work through. He sat down without kissing me hello, without even touching my hand, and I knew this wasn't going to be easy. Thank you for agreeing to meet, I started. I've missed you so much. He nodded, but said nothing. I want to apologize, I continued, reaching across the table for his hand. He let me take it, but his fingers remained limp in mine. The photo was thoughtless. I was hurt by your ultimatum, and I lashed out in a way that was unfair to you. And Jake? He asked quietly. This was it. The moment where I could come clean, take full responsibility, and maybe save my marriage. But something in me rebelled against the idea of giving Ryan that kind of power over me. What happened with Jake was a mistake, I said carefully. I'd been drinking, I was upset about our fight, and I let our conversation get too personal. It didn't mean anything. So something did happen. We talked. We We talked about our college relationship, about what ifs. It was stupid and inappropriate, and I regret it. What else? I felt trapped. How much did he actually know? Nothing else that matters. Ryan pulled his hand away from mine. Emma, if I had done exactly what you did with another woman, spent the night in her room, posted intimate photos with her, talked about alternate timelines with her, would you consider that cheating? The hypothetical hit me like a punch to the gut because I knew, absolutely knew, that I would be devastated if Ryan did those things with another woman. But admitting that would mean admitting I was wrong, and I wasn't ready to give him that satisfaction. This isn't about hypotheticals, I said. This is about us, about our marriage, about the fact that your controlling behavior pushed me into a situation where— Stop. His voice was quiet, but firm. Stop making this my fault. I asked you not to go on one trip because I was uncomfortable. You turned that into a referendum on your independence, deliberately hurt me with that photo, and cheated on me with Jake. I didn't cheat. You spent the night in another man's room discussing your feelings for each other. You were physically intimate with him. You posted a photo designed to humiliate me publicly. What would you call that? I felt cornered, desperate. I reached under the table, letting my hand slide up his thigh. I love you, Ryan. I chose you. I married you. Can't we just move forward from this? He moved my hand away firmly. Sex isn't going to fix this, Emma. You've tried to use physical intimacy to avoid real conversations before, and I'm not falling for it anymore. The rejection stung, but I pressed on. Then what do you want from me? I apologized. I admitted I made mistakes. What more can I do? I want you to take real responsibility, he said. Not just for the beach trip, but for the pattern of behavior that led us here. The way you've consistently prioritized Jake over our marriage. The way you dismiss my feelings. The way you test boundaries just to prove you can. You're being dramatic. Am I? He looked genuinely confused. Emma, when was the last time you chose me over Jake? When was the last time you considered my feelings before making plans with him? When was the last time you put our marriage first? The questions hung in the air because I couldn't answer them. Every example that came to mind seemed to prove his point. Feeling desperate, I played my last card. If you leave me over this, I don't know what I'll do to myself, I said, letting tears fill my eyes. Ryan, I can't lose you. I won't survive it. It was a tactic I'd used before when arguments got too intense, hinting at self-harm to make him back down and comfort me. It had always worked before. This time, he didn't take the bait. Don't do that, he said firmly. That's emotional manipulation, Emma, and we both know it. He placed money on the table for the bill. I've been seeing a therapist since I moved out. She's helping me recognize patterns I've been enabling for years. So some stranger is telling you to throw away our marriage? I asked bitterly, panic rising in my chest. No. She's helping me understand what a healthy relationship actually looks like, what mutual respect means, what it means to have a partner who considers your feelings before making decisions that affect both of you. He stood up, and I knew he was about to leave, about to give up on us. I filed the divorce papers yesterday, he said quietly. My lawyer will contact you next week. Ryan, please. I'm done, Emma. I'm done being made to feel like the villain for having boundaries. I'm done being gaslit into thinking my feelings don't matter. I'm done with a marriage where I'm always the bad guy for expecting basic respect. I sat in that restaurant for an hour after he left, staring at my untouched food and trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so fast. How one weekend, one photo, one tiny mistake could destroy 4 years of marriage. But deep down, in a place I wasn't ready to examine yet, I knew it wasn't really about one weekend. The week after our disastrous dinner, Jake's girlfriend Megan decided to drop a nuclear bomb on what was left of my dignity. I was at Target, innocently shopping for groceries, when she appeared at the end of my aisle like a perfectly manicured nightmare. Emma, what a coincidence, she said with a smile that could cut glass. How are you holding up? I heard about the divorce papers. Word traveled fast in our circle. "We're not divorced yet," I said defensively. "Oh, honey, denial isn't a good look on anyone." She moved closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "You know, I have to thank you, actually." "Thank me?" "For showing me exactly who Jake really is." Her smile turned predatory. "See? He told me everything about your little sleepover, every detail. How you threw yourself at him, how desperate you were, how you kept saying your marriage was over anyway." My face burned with humiliation. "That's not—" "But here's the really fun part," she continued, clearly enjoying my discomfort. "He showed me the texts." My blood turned to ice. "What texts?" "Oh, you know the ones. All those late-night messages you've been sending him for months. The ones where you complain about Ryan, where you talk about missing what we used to have, where you ask him if he ever thinks about us." I felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. Those texts weren't— they were taken out of context. I was just venting to a friend about marriage problems. Everyone does that. "My favorite," Megan continued, "was the one from 2 months ago where you said, and I quote, 'Sometimes I wonder if I married the wrong person.' Ring a bell?" I had said that, during a particularly bad fight with Ryan about household chores, but it was just venting, just frustration. I didn't mean it literally. "Jake's been screenshotting everything, by the way, including the photo you sent him of that lingerie you bought for Ryan but wanted his opinion on first." She laughed. "Real appropriate behavior for a married woman." Oh God, the photo. I'd completely forgotten about that. It was months ago, and I genuinely wanted a guy's perspective on whether the lingerie was too much or not enough. Ryan never seemed to notice what I wore anyway. "The point is," Megan said, checking her nails casually, "Jake's been showing people that you've been inappropriate with him for years. That Ryan was right to be concerned. That you're basically a cheating wife who got caught." "I never cheated." "Sweetie, everyone knows what 'we just kissed' means when adults say it. You're not fooling anyone." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and Jake wanted me to tell you something. He said, and again I quote, 'It was fun while it lasted, but I'm not looking to be anyone's midlife crisis.'" She disappeared around the corner, leaving me standing there with my mouth open and my world completely shattered. Jake had been documenting our friendship. Screenshots of our private conversations, photos I'd sent innocently, every vulnerable moment I'd shared with him about my marriage. And now he was using it all to humiliate me publicly while painting himself as the victim of a desperate housewife. I abandoned my cart and fled to my car, where I sat in the parking lot crying until I couldn't breathe. That night, I made the mistake of checking social media. The original beach photo had been shared to some local Facebook groups. Apparently, someone thought it was juicy enough gossip to spread around. The comments were brutal. "This is why my husband doesn't let me have male friends." Poor Ryan, he deserves so much better than this cheating wife. Anyone who knows Emma isn't surprised. She's always been attention-seeking. "Jake's girlfriend is gorgeous. Why would he want this desperate housewife?" Even worse, people were finding my other photos and commenting on those too. Pictures from work events, family gatherings, anything where I looked happy or confident. They were dissecting everything, looking for evidence of my supposed character flaws. My cousin Amber, who I'd thought was on my side, had shared the beach photo with the caption, "This is what happens when women don't respect their marriages. Prayers for Ryan during this difficult time." My own family was turning against me. I started blocking people, deleting comments, even briefly considered deactivating all my accounts. But that would look like an admission of guilt, wouldn't it? Instead, I posted a long explanation. "I'm disappointed by the rumors and lies being spread about my marriage. Ryan and I are going through a difficult time, but that doesn't give people the right to make assumptions or spread gossip. My friendship with Jake has always been appropriate and platonic. I'm not going to dignify the false accusations with detailed responses, but I will say that sometimes when marriages have problems, It's easier to blame the wife than examine the real issues. Hashtag truth wins and hashtag marriage is hard. The post got some supportive responses from a few friends, but mostly it seemed to make things worse. People started calling me delusional, saying I was playing the victim, accusing me of gaslighting Ryan publicly. Jake even commented, "Some people really can't take responsibility for their actions. Sad." The betrayal cut so deep I thought I might vomit. 2 weeks later, my sister Claire called with the news that would end any hope of salvaging my reputation or my marriage. "Emma, I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me for it." "What now?" "I talked to Ryan yesterday. He asked me to lunch." My heart sank. Ryan was working on getting my own family on his side. "He showed me something," Claire continued. "Screenshots that Jake sent him, of your text conversations." I closed my eyes. Of course Jake had sent them to Ryan. Of course. "Emma, some of those messages..." Claire's voice was disappointed. "The one about wondering if you married the wrong person, the one asking Jake if he ever thinks about what could have been, the photo of the lingerie." "Those were taken out of context." "Were they? Because Ryan also showed me the metadata. Emma, you sent Jake that lingerie photo on your anniversary with Ryan." My stomach dropped. I'd forgotten about the timing. Ryan and I had been fighting that day about something stupid, and I'd been feeling unappreciated. Sending the photo to Jake had just been, I don't know, seeking validation, I guess. "And there's more," Claire said softly. "Ryan has credit card statements showing you've been meeting Jake for coffee and lunch for months. Always when Ryan was traveling for work. Always at places across town where you wouldn't run into anyone you know." "We're friends. Friends have coffee." "Friends don't lie about it, Emma. Ryan said he never knew about any of these meetings, that you told him you were shopping or running errands." She was right. I had lied about the meetings, but only because Ryan got weird about Jake. I was just avoiding unnecessary drama. "The worst part," Claire continued, "is the timeline. The very first time you met Jake for coffee alone was 3 days after you and Ryan had that big fight about starting a family. The day you came home crying because Ryan said he wasn't ready for kids yet." I remembered that day. I'd been devastated, feeling like Ryan was always putting off the things I wanted. Jake had been so understanding, so supportive. He'd said if he were married to me, starting a family would be his priority. "Emma, you've been having an emotional affair for months, maybe longer. The beach trip was just when it became physical." "It wasn't an affair." "You were meeting another man in secret, sharing intimate details about your marriage problems, sending him suggestive photos and lying to your husband about all of it. What would you call that?" I couldn't answer because she was right, and we both knew it. "Ryan's not the controlling monster you've been painting him as," Claire said gently. "He's a man who watched his wife slowly replace him with another man and tried desperately to save his marriage before it was too late." After Claire hung up, I sat in my empty house. God, when had it started feeling empty? When had the place Ryan and I built together stopped feeling like home? And forced myself to really look at the past year. The coffee meetings with Jake that I'd hidden from Ryan. The way I'd started complaining to Jake about every little issue in my marriage. The lingerie photo I'd sent on my anniversary because Ryan had disappointed me and Jake always made me feel beautiful. The way I'd prioritized Jake's opinion over Ryan's on everything from what to wear to vacation. The way I'd lit up when Jake texted and barely looked up when Ryan came home from work. The way I'd chosen Jake's feelings over Ryan's feelings every single time. And the beach trip? God, the beach trip. I'd gone specifically to defy Ryan, to prove that he couldn't control me. But I'd also gone knowing deep down that something might happen with Jake. The new bikini, the romantic setting, the alcohol, the conversations about roads not taken. I'd wanted something to happen, maybe not consciously, but some part of me had been craving the validation, the excitement, the feeling of being desired by someone new. And when it happened, I justified it by saying we didn't have real sex, as if everything else we did didn't count, as if betraying my husband's trust was okay as long as I maintained some arbitrary physical boundary. Then I'd posted that photo knowing exactly how it would hurt Ryan. I'd wanted him to feel as rejected and unimportant as he'd made me feel with his ultimatum. I'd wanted to punish him for daring to set a boundary I didn't like. The truth hit me like a sledgehammer. I hadn't been defending my independence or fighting controlling behavior. I'd been having an affair, emotional and then physical, and painting myself as the victim when I got caught. Ryan hadn't been controlling. He'd been trying to save our marriage from a threat he could see clearly, and I'd been too caught up in the excitement of Jake's attention to care. But even as the truth settled in my chest like a lead weight, another voice in my head whispered, "It's too late now anyway. Everyone's already made up their minds about who's the villain in this story. Ryan's moved on, Jake's moved on. My family thinks I'm a cheater, and my reputation is destroyed. What was the point of taking responsibility now when it wouldn't change anything?" The divorce was finalized 4 months later. I didn't contest anything. I couldn't, really, given what everyone knew about the situation. Ryan kept the house, which was mostly his down payment anyway, and I moved into a small apartment across town. Jake blocked me on everything after Megan gave him his own ultimatum. Apparently, she was willing to forgive his moment of weakness with a desperate married woman, but only if he cut all contact with me permanently. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd lost my husband and my best friend in one catastrophic weekend, and I had no one to blame but myself. Most of our mutual friends sided with Ryan, which I told myself was unfair but secretly knew was probably deserved. My family maintained awkward politeness, but holidays were weird now. Everyone walking on eggshells, avoiding the topic of my divorce, treating me like the relative who'd embarrassed the family. I started therapy 6 months after the divorce was final. Not because I thought I'd done anything wrong, I wasn't ready to go that far yet, but because I needed someone to help me understand why everyone was treating me like the villain when I'd just been trying to maintain my independence. Dr. Martinez was patient with me. She let me tell my side of the story without judgment, let me rage about Ryan's controlling behavior and Jake's betrayal and everyone's unfair assumptions about my character. It took me almost a year to stop talking about what everyone else had done wrong and start examining my own choices. "What do you think Ryan was feeling?" Dr. Martinez asked during one session, "when he found those text messages between you and Jake?" "Paranoid," I said automatically. "Insecure, controlling." But underneath those reactions, what emotion do you think drove them? I didn't want to answer because I knew what she was getting at, but finally, reluctantly, "Hurt, I guess. Maybe scared?" Scared of what? Of losing me. The words came out barely above a whisper. And when he set that boundary about the beach trip, what do you think he was hoping would happen? He wanted to control me. Emma, dig deeper than that. What was he hoping would happen? I closed my eyes, forced myself to really think about it. He was hoping I'd choose him. Choose our marriage. Show him that he mattered more than Jake. And instead, I chose Jake. I chose the trip, the photo, everything. I chose to hurt Ryan to prove a point about independence that wasn't even real. It was the first time I'd said it out loud. I chose Jake over Ryan. Not once, but 100 times over months and months, until Ryan finally couldn't take it anymore. The beach trip hadn't ended my marriage. I'd been ending it slowly, one text message and secret coffee date and flirtatious photo at a time. And the worst part? Some tiny voice in the back of my mind had known exactly what I was doing the whole time. I'd known Ryan was hurting, known my behavior with Jake crossed lines, known that posting that photo was designed to wound. I just told myself I was the victim so I didn't have to face the truth about who I'd become. It's been 2 years now since the beach trip that destroyed my life. Ryan remarried last spring. a woman from his office who seems lovely and normal and probably doesn't have male best friends who text her at midnight. I saw the wedding photos on Facebook. Yes, I still creep on his social media like a masochist, and felt a weird mix of jealousy and relief. He looked happy, really genuinely happy in a way I'm not sure he ever looked with me. Jake and Megan are engaged. Their announcement photo showed up in my Instagram feed despite the fact that he blocked me, probably because we still have mutual friends. They look perfect together. Two beautiful people who deserve each other's bullshit. I'm alone, not by choice, but because dating is hard when you're the woman who destroyed her marriage for a weekend fling. Word gets around in a small town, and apparently cheating wife isn't the vibe most men are looking for. My therapist says I should focus on rebuilding my life, on learning from my mistakes, on becoming the kind of person who deserves a healthy relationship. She's probably right. But some nights, when I'm lying in my studio apartment listening to the neighbors fight through thin walls, I still think about that beach weekend. About the way Jake looked at me like I was the most interesting person in the world. About the excitement of being wanted, being chosen, being special to someone. And I wonder if it was worth it. The honest answer? In those moments of loneliness and regret, when I remember how alive I felt in Jake's arms, when I remember the rush of defying Ryan's ultimatum and posting that photo. Sometimes I think it was. And that's probably the real reason I'm still alone. Because somewhere deep down, I'm still the woman who chose momentary excitement over lasting love, who valued being desired over being respected, who burned down her entire life for 72 hours of feeling special. I've learned to say the right things in therapy about accountability and growth and recognizing patterns. But late at night, when I'm scrolling through Ryan's new wife's Instagram stories and watching them build the life I threw away, I still think I was the victim. I still think everyone overreacted. I still think if Ryan had just trusted me, none of this would have happened. And maybe that's why I'm telling you this story. Not because I've learned some profound lesson about love and marriage and fidelity. Not because I want to warn other women not to make my mistakes, but because I want you to tell me I'm right. That Ryan was controlling. That Jake was manipulative. That everyone judged me too harshly for one weekend of poor decisions. I want you to tell me I was the victim, so I can finally stop feeling like the villain in my own story. Even though deep down, in the place I never let Dr. Martinez see, I know exactly what I was. Sometimes the person trying to clip your wings is actually trying to save you from flying into traffic. But I wasn't ready to hear that voice then. And honestly, I'm still not sure I am now.